And we got to go to Minnesota, where people are talking about how the Minnesota governor, Tim Walz, ended up pardoning a convicted sex offender who ended up abusing a 10-year-old girl. Let's get into it.
Convicted of sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl. A bit earlier, he was pardoned by Minnesota's Governor Tim Walz. And now the State Department has revoked the legal status of that migrant, clearing the way for his deportation. Secretary of State Marco Rubio describing that move.
Just days before this foreign sex offender was scheduled to be deported, Tim Walz, the governor, issued him a pardon, setting him free to once again endanger the children of America.
That's crazy.
Well, this week I revoked his legal status in the United States, and as a result, federal agents took him into custody, and as of today, he has been removed from the United States.
So State Department spokesman Tommy Pickett's with me now, and good morning to you. What more can you add to this story now?
Well, what we saw here was an illegal alien convicted of heinous crimes that was shielded from deportation by Governor Tim Walz, shielded from deportation. And we said, no, we're not going to allow Americans to be threatened by this. What we're going to see is Secretary Rubio revoking this legal status and making sure that we're not having a situation where this illegal alien convicted of these crimes can threaten another American ever again. It's a clear example of this administration each and every single time siding with the American people first.
This was a 10-year-old girl repeatedly raped. That's the accusation. And she herself wrote a letter on his behalf, and so did many others. The AG, Keith Ellison, said this about a week ago. He said the Minnesota Board of Pardons made the unanimous decision to grant Tu Vang this pardon after an exhaustive process which included a statement of support from the victim, a recommendation to grant the pardon for the Clemency Review Commission, and a large number of community support letters.
Whoa.
So, by the way, that's all null and void right now, correct? And
Yes,
this individual is out of the country?
He is out of the country. He will never be allowed to threaten another American again. And that is because...
Now, let me say something first. I would like to know more details on the victim making a statement for his release or pardon. That sounds mad to me. Hopefully we go into more details about that, but let's keep going into this.
Action of this administration. An illegal alien in this country convicted of heinous crimes. Of course, you're mentioning the power of forgiveness we see from people, and I'm always astonished by people that can have that capacity to forgive these heinous crimes. But we are going to enforce the law. We are not going to allow someone to endanger Americans, and this is a clear example of a pardon issue to shield someone from deportation, convicted of these heinous crimes. That is not something we're going to allow. We are going to side with the American people. We're going to protect the American people. We are under no obligation, to state the obvious, to allow someone convicted of these heinous crimes to remain in the United States of America.
Okay, on to another story now. Apparently, the State Department...
Honestly, I can 100% agree with that, because even if he's pardoned or not, you've already done something incredibly sickening. And and you've already entered the country illegally. Why are you still here in the first place? Absolutely crazy.
I was trying to enlist the help of about 60 countries.
So let's get over into this next video and see what else it tells us.
Just weeks ago, a convicted sex offender and a foreign national was shielded from deportation by the governor of Minnesota. Laotian national Tu Vang was convicted of repeatedly sexually abusing a 10-year-old girl in the state of Minnesota. He even tried to pay his victim for her silence, and he called his heinous crimes a minor thing. Just days before this foreign sex offender was scheduled to be deported, Tim Walz, the governor, issued him a pardon, setting him free to once again endanger the children of America. Well, this week I revoked his legal status in the United States, and as a result, federal agents took him into custody, and as of today, he has been removed from the United States. Because of our action, this foreign criminal will never pose a threat to any American ever again. Americans must never be forced by their elected leaders to live alongside foreign sex criminals who have no right to begin with to reside in our country. This administration will always stand with the American people and defend them from violent criminals.
It's a crazy situation, y'all. Like I said, I do have more questions about the victim making a statement. Let's get over into the AI breakdown, y'all, and see what else we can find out about this whole case. It's crazy to think about. So let's get over into that. So as we know, the Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, as part of the 3-member Board of Pardons, unanimously voted to grant full pardon to the 42-year-old immigrant who had been convicted 20 years prior for the repeated sexual abuse of a 10-year-old girl. The June 10th, 2026 decision sparked swift national political clash and federal intervention. So in 2006, he was convicted of first-degree criminal sexual conduct for repeated abusing a child over a 2.5-year period, starting when he was 18 years old. At the time of the initial arrest, he tried to pay the victim for her silence and downplayed the crime. The unanimous vote was cast by the 3-person board: Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison, and Minnesota Supreme Court Chief Justice Natalie Hudson. So the board members stated that their decision followed an exhaustive review heavily influenced by a letter from the victim, now an adult, who explicitly forgave Yang, testified to his rehabilitation, and requested a pardon so his family could remain together. Vang also submitted numerous community support letters and expressed deep remorse during the hearing. So he is a man, was originally born in a refugee camp in Thailand, came to U.S. in 1994. His legal status was stripped in 2006 following his conviction, making him subject to final deportation order. He sought the pardon specifically to clear his record and block federal removal proceedings. The Department of the Homeland Security and the high-ranking federal officials sharply condemned the pardon. Acting Assistant Secretary Lauren Biss called the decision disgusting, accusing the state politicians of protecting dangerous foreign criminals from deportation. The state-level pardon ultimately failed to halt the federal immigration enforcement. So the U.S. Secretary Marco Rubio formally revoked his legal U.S. status. Following the revocation, Custom Enforcement took him back into federal custody. On July 10th, DHS announced that he had been officially deported and flown to Laos. While the federal officials stated that the intervention was necessary to bypass Walz's efforts to shield a sex offender, the Minnesota Attorney General office countered by stating that the state-level pardon does not legally override the federal immigration law or automatically restore his green card, asserting that DHS misinterpreted the pardon legal authority. Let's get into more details about the victim's statement that actually led to his pardon in the first place. So the victim's formally written statement, which was obtained and reviewed by the Minnesota Board of Pardons, served as the primary catalyst for the board's unanimous decision to grant him a pardon in the first place. The detail and explicit quotes from the victim in the letter included. So we got the victim, who is now an adult, wrote directly about processing the trauma over 2 decades since the abuse occurred. She stated, "What happened to me was wrong, but I have had many years to think about this and have made my peace with it. I forgive him." Okay. That is what a victim, that is what most therapists and people who've dealt with crimes tell the victim to do. Eventually they'll get to a point where they forgive them. That is what God tells you to do, forgive. But does that mean he should be pardoned in the first place just because the victim forgave him? She actively vouched for his personal reform since 2006 conviction. She noted he is not the same person now. I have seen how he has changed. I wonder why she had so much contact with him. Maybe it was for her own benefit or own therapy, but still crazy. So a central focus of her statement was an explicit plea to the board to grant the pardon so he would not be separated from his wife and 6 children through federal deportation. She actively urged the board to approve clemency for the sake of his family's stability. Hasn't he been in jail for the longest time? Maybe he wasn't. I don't know. The victim's letter carried immense weight during the hearing, particularly for the judicial members of the panel. Before casting her vote alongside Governor Tim Walz and Attorney General Keith Ellison, the Supreme Court Chief Justice Natalie Hudson explicitly cited that the victim's input, stating, "We've seen some evidence here of rehabilitation, but obviously the victim's statement here is very significant for me." The state officials later noted that while they denied 3 other separate pardon requests from the individual facing deportation over the sex offenses, the victim actively, explicitly advocates for Yang's case and ultimately compelled the board to act. I don't know, man. It sounds like she in herself is against the deportation and him being separated from the family. But he, in the end of the day, it's simple. I think of it like this. He sexually assaulted a 10-year-old at 18. I don't think you can come back from that. Yes, you can serve your time. Yes, you can be changed and think what you did now is wrong. But you still did something sickening to a child. So, and your consequence is deportation. Especially if you were when your legal status has been revoked, that is the consequences of your actions, and you need to face them. It's a crazy situation, y'all, but let me know your thoughts and let me know if you disagree with anything I said. It's a tragic situation.